I have secrets inside of me and struggles. And I don't know if I'm ready to share them.
I want to hear what you have to say.
I want to speak of the deepest things together.
I want to hear what you dream about and what you hope for.
I want to know how you have come to arrive at this resting point in your journey.
What if I speak and you don't understand me?
I will listen and listen again until my hearing becomes understanding.
What if I can't find the words to share the world inside me?
I believe that wise words will emerge from you.
How can I trust you to hold my life stories? You, who I may not even know.
By knowing that as I receive part of your story, I will give you part of mine.
How will this work? What will happen? What awaits us?
We can find out anything by beginning.
Let's begin to listen and trust and know one another more deeply.
Yeah. So here we are again. It's hard to believe that it was just 7 days ago that I stood before you for the first time as your ministerial candidate. Most of you were here last week. Some of you who weren't here told me that you watched the recording of the service online, maybe even more than once. For those of you who weren't here and didn't get a chance to watch it, I shared a little bit about myself and my thoughts on the nature of ministry, what I'm seeking in my first settled ministry, and why I want to be your minister here at the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. This past week, we had many chances to meet in smaller groups and in a variety of settings to talk in more depth about this congregation and about you as individuals, your successes, your disappointments, your challenges, your opportunities, and your hopes for the future. I began by asking the kids for advice. What should I do to be a good minister? What did they want from their new minister? Turns out they gave amazing advice. They had a lot of advice, but I'll share just a few of their suggestions. First, they told me to ask people how they are and to remember to say, "Have a nice day." Definitely good advice. I've learned over the years, especially during these last 3 years of seminary and of being a chaplain in a very busy hospital, that sometimes people just want to know that they're being seen and heard. They just want to be acknowledged for their presence. This week, I spoke to many of you individually, and some were dealing with health struggles of your own or of someone close to you. Some of you are in the midst of very challenging and very scary and very frightening life transitions. And some of you have recently lost loved ones or are losing them now. In every case, it was important for me to let you know that you are seen, you are heard, you are supported, and you are loved. I genuinely want to know how you are and wish you the peace, comfort, strength, resilience, humor, absurdity, or whatever it is you need so that you can have the best day possible. The kids also told me to eat pizza. And I did. And cookies, and brownies, and cherry pie, and 7-layer dip, and everything else. Finally, they told me not to cut people with a knife. Thankfully, I think I was able to make it through the week without inflicting any bodily injury on anyone. The schedule for this candidating week, which is really 9 days, contained 41 scheduled events. I met with building and grounds, finance, membership, worship, extended ministry, social justice, family programming, endowment, and the search committee multiple times. I met with the board and their spouses, then met with all the past presidents of the board, met with the church attorney. I met with local ministers, the humanists, the members of color in the congregation, the choir, and the staff. I met with young families where I was embroiled in a serious ping pong tournament, where I held my own, thank you very much. Attended the first half of this week's Linton concert and took a driving tour of the neighborhood. And almost every one of these events involved some kind of food. Many, many, many potlucks and many, many, many snacks and meals later, I am incredibly surprised that this dress still fits somehow and that I'm still standing. I had a chance to see you in action this week, tutoring at South Avondale and working at the Shiloh Food Pantry. I was quite impressed with your dedication and commitment to serving those in the local community. I promised one little girl that I would come back to see her next year when she's in the first grade, a promise that I intend to keep regardless of the outcome of today's vote. And Miss Barbara at Shiloh has already decided that I'm coming back to work with her once a month at the food pantry. She's got my schedule ready. I had a chance to worship with you last Sunday and to lead your first ever Vesper service. It was and is my honor to sing and pray with you, to share your joys and your sorrows, and to be with you in spiritual community. Many of you, a lot of you, hoped that I would have a chance to explore Cincinnati during this trip and offered tons and tons of suggestions for places that I could go. But remember those 41 scheduled events? There was not much time for anything else somehow, but I was able to find my way to Adriatico's Pizza, and last night I attended an amazing concert and worship service where I made new friends who turned out to be members of Christ Emmanuel Christian Fellowship, which is a church that's less than a mile from here. After I explained why I was visiting Cincinnati, they looked at me and they said, "Oh, that church." I thought, okay, here we go. So it turns out they've had questions about this place for years. They've wondered, what is Unitarian Universalism? Are you non-denominational? And I said, well, that is the denomination. Oh, Well, are people allowed to visit? Of course. Of course. So they have invited me to attend service with them, and I've invited them to come here. Whether I'm here or not, I know that you will be gracious. I learned that you are justifiably proud of this church and this city. You are proud of your accomplishments, your work in the community, and your efforts to build beloved community, that elusive thing we all dream of. I learned that you are amazingly talented, even Joe. The staff and lay leaders are good at what they do. And as we saw on Friday night, there is a lot of talent in this congregation. And I have an installation singer already lined up. I learned that you are generous, caring, and loving hosts. You've gone out of your way to make me feel welcome during this wild process. Every event was well attended, and you made sure, again, that there was plenty of food. I learned that you guys really like to eat. Lastly, I learned that 48 degrees is wonderful weather for an outdoor hike, but not so much for an outdoor picnic. It took almost 3 hours after I left the park yesterday to regain full feeling in my frozen hands. I learned a lot during this trip, and I hope you did too. I hope you learned that you have much, much to celebrate. You have an amazing staff and lay leadership team. You have a strong commitment to social justice. You're committed to the fiscal and operational stability of this congregation. You take your duties as stewards of the church seriously. And you've managed to survive the search process, a process which can stress out even the most calm among us. You've done it with grace, staying together in right relations and in community, working together toward a common goal. Guided by an incredible search committee, the best that I've seen throughout this process. Yay. Yes. Yes. With their guidance and their love and their support and their encouragement and their nudging and their urging, you're almost there. Just hang on just a little while longer. You should celebrate the long history of this congregation and its status as a fixture in this community. Celebrate the long history you had with your previous minister, Reverend Sharon Dittmar. I heard many of you say you came to this church because of Sharon, or that certain initiatives such as Carter Sunday happened because of Sharon. Celebrate the work she did and the work you did with her. It deserves recognition and honor. So yes, you have much to celebrate. And now, you're about to cast a historic vote. Every time a congregation calls a new minister, every single time, it's a historic vote. And yet this time, you'll be voting for the first time to call a female minister of color, a black woman, as your settled minister. From your words and your actions, I believe and I trust that you are undertaking this action because you see me as the most qualified candidate for the position and not just for the novelty it presents. The stakes are far too high for it to be anything else. So, where do we go from here? While I will honor and celebrate your legacy and your history, it will be my role and my duty to encourage, to challenge, and to guide you to an even greater future, to inspire you to continue becoming the best you can be. And together we'll continue to offer innovative and fulfilling worship, music, and family programming that draws upon all of our 6 sources, is spiritually satisfying, and encourages us all to live into our principles. Together, we'll continue to ensure that this congregation remains financially secure, that each of us honors our obligation as stewards of the church so that we can fairly compensate staff and offer quality programming, education, and worship. Together, we will continue to seek opportunities for innovation and efficiency in administration. We'll leverage our resources and our technology to best serve the needs of the congregation. Together, we'll continue to support one another in community, sharing both our joys and our sorrows. We'll support members of all ages and continue to nurture our youth. Together, we'll continue to be an active and engaged member in local cluster and regional affairs and partner in interfaith and community work. And still, there's more we can do. We can build on the legacy of the Carter reconciliation and promise to tell more of the stories, to protect against the purposely disremembering of the complicated stories of racism in this city and in our denomination. It is my hope that we will tell more of those untold, forgotten, and ignored stories, and that we will honor their subjects not just on one day, but throughout the year. You told your search committee that you wanted a more diverse congregation. Many of you, I would say almost everyone I spoke to, told me they want the same thing. It's my hope that we'll begin the difficult process of real self-examination so that we might achieve that goal, so that we might understand how to make the congregation more open and more welcoming to those of other cultures, that we can open our hearts and our minds to the possibility that we could do more, that we could do better, that we could be better, and that we'll have the courage to take the steps necessary to achieve real transformation. I hope that we'll join with the rest of the denomination in its anti-racism, anti-oppression efforts, and that we will explore bringing our welcoming congregation status up to current denominational standards. It's my hope that we'll continue to seek ways to be supportive of the Avondale community, with the school, the Shiloh Food Pantry, and all of the amazing plans they have for expansion, and any other opportunities that may arise. I hope that we'll create new ways to serve the community, not as leaders, not as saviors, but as allies and partners. We're all excited today about the possibilities of our future together, and rightly so. Should you choose me as your next settled minister, we'll have the opportunity to do great things here at First U. But let's not delude ourselves. It won't always be easy. As I reminded the group at the Social Justice Forum, I am not Sharon. While I admire her work and like her personally, I cannot be Sharon, nor do I want to be. I am Connie. And here I am. I am not perfect. I will make mistakes. I may even make decisions that you don't like. And you are not perfect. You will make mistakes. You may even make decisions that I don't like. And yet, it's my intention and my hope that we will remain committed to community, committed to living into our principles, committed to learning, to serving, to bringing our best selves to everything we do, committed to allowing the power of love to guide, teach, and protect us, to heal, redeem, and transform us. This is my fervent wish. May it be so today and all the days to come. And now I'll ask you to please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, Come and Go With Me, number 1018 in the Teal hymnal. Our benediction comes from Reverend Dr. Michael A. Schuler from the First Unitarian Society in Madison, Wisconsin. I don't know how he could have known that these words would be perfect for today. We've reached the end of this time for the gathering of memory and for letting the imagination play with future possibilities. We've enjoyed magic moments and edified each other. Shall it be concluded then? Or will this adventure now commenced continue? Our separate paths converging, meeting, merging in the unending quest for love more perfect, the joyous struggle for meaning more sufficient and life more abundant. Is this ending to be an ending or merely a prelude to a new, more glorious beginning? I pose the question. In your hearts lies the answer.
Thanks so much. All right, the results are in. So as Linda Miltner shared, we had 183 people who registered to vote. The number of votes that were cast were 182. So someone did not vote that thought they were going to. Necessary for the election, 137. By bylaws, Article 10, Section 1, we needed to have a 3/4 vote. The Reverend Connie would like to have 90% for her to take this position. The number of votes for Reverend Connie were 182. So to continue, just for the records, because this has to be in the minutes, the votes against Reverend Simon, 0. Illegal ballots, 0. The result is declared by the chair, and you have chosen to call Reverend Connie Simon as our next minister. I think there's someone who might have a few comments to share with us.
Okay. So, the question was posed, and I accept. Yay. I'm not going to keep you long because I know that you have things to do and places to go and all that kind of stuff. So I'll keep it short. It is my honor and my privilege to be your next settled minister. I promise to bring my whole self to the task, to do my best as your minister and as a representative of this congregation, to love you when times are good and even when times are hard. How about you? Will you promise the same thing? Yes. Will you come and go with me into the future? Yes. Are you ready now? Yes. Then let's get to work. Now's the time for wild celebration. Wild celebration. Yay!
this is the final activity of the Ministerial Search Committee. Our pistachio t-shirts worked. Our strategy was to go out and let the world know what a great church we are and the kind of minister we were looking for, because GA never heard of this, sort of like Christ Emmanuel didn't either. And so in our final act of our t-shirts that say, "Are you our next minister?" we present Reverend Connie Simon.
That's good. Yay! Oh, that's good. Yay! Pictures, pictures.
Let's go party.
Ah, that is so good.